So welcome back to the presentations on the type species Calotes and the class Reptilia. This presentation brings to you the detail on respiratory system of Calotes. Respiratory system of Calotes, the major respiratory organ, it has the lungs, a pair of lungs obviously. As compared with the frogs, lizards, the Calotes doesn't have any accessory or auxiliary means of respiration. The sole structure that helps in respiration, it is a pair of lungs. It is more elaborate than that of the frog or the Hoplovitrachus, which we have studied under amphibian. The respiratory organs include, you can see here, it includes a pair of external nostrils. The external nostrils lie a little in front of the eyes and they lead into nasal passage or the nasal chamber. These nasal chambers opens into the roof of the buccal cavity and it communicates with the buccal cavity through internal nostrils. On the floor of the buccal cavity, you can see just behind the tongue is located the glottis, and this opens posteriorly into a larynx, the chamber. You can see here the larynx part. Okay, the larynx, it is supported by the walls of the larynx. It is supported by the cricoid and arytenoid cartilages. A single cricoid and a pair of arytenoid cartilages support the wall of the larynx. The larynx, it is not well prominent as in the case of amphibians. Amphibians, obviously, we saw that the larynx do have an important role in producing that sound, isn't it? Especially during the making of the sexual call, the mating call, etc. Okay. Now these larynx, it opens into a narrow, elongated, cylindrical trachea. The trachea, the wall is supported by a large number of small cartilaginous tracheal rings, and the trachea. Here you can see the larynx, trachea, and the trachea gets bifurcated into two bronchi. Each bronchus, it enters into a lung. When we look into the lung, you can see that the right lung is a little more longer, slightly larger than the left one. Each lung, it is elastic and elongated sac, and the walls of the lungs are folded into ridges, giving the appearance of a honeycomb. These ridges are much closer and more numerous towards the anterior end, while towards the posterior end, you can see it is less prominent or less numerous. The chambers on the wall are called alveoli, and it is in this alveoli, you can see over here when it is cut open, it is visible, and it is in these alveoli the gaseous exchange takes place. While towards the distal part here, you can see towards the posterior, the distal part of the lungs, these alveoli are absent, and hence this part is referred as reservoir. Since there is no gaseous exchange taking place, but it gets filled with air, this part is referred as the reservoir. It is considered to be the reservoir for the residual air. Okay, whatever is remaining even after inhalation and exhalation, that part of air gets accumulated here, and that is what is referred as the residual volume or residual air. And this part of the lung, it is referred as a reservoir. Okay. Now the respiratory mechanism, how the respiration is brought about. Just like humans, which you have learned in detail in your lower classes, respiration can be divided into the whole process of respiration. The whole process of respiration, it can be divided into inhalation and exhalation. So in Calotes, the pleural and the peritoneal cavities communicate, and the respiratory movements are performed by the intercostal muscles attached to the ribs. During inhalation, what happens is the intercostal muscles contract, and this bring about raising of the ribs that increases the volume of the thoracic cavity, and at the same time it reduces the pressure inside the lungs. And because of the pressure decrease inside the lungs, there is an inflow of air into the lung through the whole path. So through the external nostrils till the lungs, the air moves inside because the pressure inside the lungs decreases. Okay, so the air moves inside. There is an inflow of air. Now, once it reaches the lung, what happens is the alveoli, you can see the alveoli, the walls of the alveoli, it is provided with a huge amount of blood capillaries. Okay, so when the air enters the alveoli, the oxygen inside the alveoli, it moves through the wall of the alveoli, through the wall of the blood capillaries and enters the blood. While the carbon dioxide in the blood, it moves through the wall of the blood capillaries, through the wall of the alveolus and reaches the air. So in this way, the gaseous exchange takes place. So inhalation is caused by the movement of intercostal muscles that raises the ribs, that increases the volume of the thoracic cavity but reduces the pressure inside the lungs, and this leads to the inflow of air into the lung. Oxygen of the air enters the blood in the blood capillaries, while carbon dioxide in turn enters the alveolus from the blood. Now, exhalation is done by lowering the ribs, and it is due to the contraction of the intercostal muscles, and this decreases the volume of the thoracic cavity, and the pressure inside the lungs increases, and it pushes out the air that contains the carbon dioxide back through the same path, that is through the bronchi, trachea, larynx, glottis, and then the external nostrils out. Okay, so this is how the whole process of respiration takes place. So as already mentioned, this is the only respiratory mechanism in the case of Calotes, and the lungs are a little more elaborate than what we have seen in the case of Hoplobacteracus, and the respiratory mechanism takes place with the help of the intercostal muscles and the whole other structures. Okay, thank you.